Summertime whitewater rafting on the West Coast doesn't get much better than this.
Okay, forward all.
But it's not natural to have so much water flowing down the Klamath River in August. This rafting trip is only possible because of water released upstream from J.C. Boyle Dam.
This is an artificial experience on a modified river. The dam is holding back water in the night, it's releasing water during the day, and we're riding on that bubble.
If all goes according to plan, that bubble will be gone by next year, along with J.C. Boyle Dam itself. It's one of 4 Klamath River dams the utility PacifiCorp decided to take out, along with Copco 1, Copco 2, and Iron Gate dams. They're all blocking salmon from swimming upstream, and they'll all be coming out next year in the world's largest dam removal project. Longtime river runner Bill Cross is eager to see them go.
We have a dam upstream from us and 3 dams downstream from us. In the future, when the dams come out, there will be new stretches of river upstream and downstream from here, and a fully connected river from top to bottom.
But when the dams come out, there will only be about half as much water in the river in late summer. Not nearly enough for a big raft to make a trip like this. That's a big blow for rafting guide Bart Baldwin, whose business depends on summertime trips that will no longer be possible.
I feel like I'm losing a good friend. I've run this river a lot, and it's my favorite. Right now, this is it. This is the biggest bang for your buck that you can get in the summer. 95 degrees, 72 degree water, 42 named rapids, and they're long and exciting and explosive, and it's pretty unique.
The Klamath Dam Removal Project took decades to get approval, in part because it's controversial. Supporters say it will bring cleaner water, with less of this white foam and fewer harmful algae blooms. They both worsen with the combination of stagnant reservoirs and agricultural runoff.
So right here on the bridge, we'll show you what I like to look at.
Dam removal will open up new habitat for salmon. That's what Karuk tribal leader and traditional fisherman Troy Hockaday has been fighting for. During spawning season, he comes to check on the salmon at the confluence of the Klamath River and the Scott River tributary.
So the salmon will pull up here until it's time for them to get up the river when they know they have to go. To see these fish right here right now gives me hope. Now, the hope is for them to get to where they have to go to spawn.
Removing the dams will reopen 400 miles of salmon habitat, including a lot of spawning grounds the fish haven't been able to reach for more than a century. There's no guarantee the salmon will thrive in this drought-stricken basin, but Troy is hopeful.
Fish is our life, especially on the Klamath River, our life and our culture. My goal is to fight for those fish and keep fighting for them until I can't find any more, is to where I can have my grandson, who's 1 year old today, to be down there fishing and also, here, Grandpa, here's a fish.
PacifiCorp spokesman Bob Gravely says the cost of upgrading the dams to allow salmon to swim upstream was far more than the cost of taking them out.
These are electricity-producing dams. Unlike some of the other dams people are familiar with, these are not really flood control dams. They're not used for irrigation water.
So removing them won't really change the ongoing fights over water scarcity in the basin.
One of the problems on the Klamath is, there's just lots of demands for a certain amount of water, and those disputes will continue after dam removal.
Francis Gill and Danny Fontaine are worried about losing the lake their community is named after. They're longtime residents of Copco Lake, where about 75 houses line the reservoir. And they want to see the place thrive in the future. That's why the couple recently bought this store and started renovating it.
We're reopening it, but it used to be open, and it was like the hub of the community back then, so We're hoping we can bring that back.
The rafters used to get out here, and the previous owner said they had 300 people here on one day.
I don't know if we can do it all by ourselves, but it'd be nice to have like donuts and coffee in the morning. And
we're trying to make it into an old general store from way back in time, you know, just to bring out the feeling of the community.
The problem is they can't get anyone to tell them what to expect. From the bare land and the river, they will be their new neighbors.
But yeah, we have these 3 docks that we're gonna lose. We won't be able to launch boats anymore. People are angry and sad because we're suffering a loss. We're going through this grief process for 21 years up here.
Danny says his job as a real estate agent is harder now. Copco Lake homes could see damaged water wells and unstable ground when the reservoir is drained and all the sediment stored up behind the dams starts flowing downstream. This is what it looked like when Condit Dam was removed from the White Salmon River in Washington.
Nobody knows what it's going to be like, so when you're trying to sell a home to somebody and you can't tell them what they're buying, it creates a big challenge.
Now he has to disclose, well, your well may dry up or your house may fall off a cliff. Oh yeah, by the way, the lake's going away in a few months too. Welcome.
The emptied reservoirs will need a lot of restoration work. And some of it has already started. Workers with local tribes are cutting down weeds and collecting native seeds so they can replant the bare land that's currently underwater.
It feels like I'm really making a difference. We're working right now to get these invasive species out of the way so we can give the native plants a fighting chance to grow and do good.
Gwen Santos is overseeing the massive job of restoring more than 2,000 acres around the reservoirs and dams.
After dam removal, we are responsible for putting the river and the ecology and the environment back to a functioning ecosystem.
When do you think they'll be fully leaked out?
I was hoping this week.
I think this is the largest project that any of us have worked on ever. Right now you're looking at a lake. So what I imagine is, as we can see the chaparral on the hillsides, is for that to continue, kind of move into a grassland system, and then we see a flowing river that meanders, has some ripples, and will be a really pleasant area to look at.
Last brush. I'm gonna hope we can crash through on this line.
Bill Cross has been imagining that restored river too.
There's one now. Flaps are down. Landing gear. Making the final approach. Oh, yes.
A few months after our whitewater rafting trip with Bill, we hiked with him to the top of these basalt cliffs, an area known as Ward's Canyon. This is where he's most excited to see the river reemerge.
I've seen pretty much every inch of the Klamath, and this is the most spectacular canyon on the river.
The river channel here used to be filled with rushing water, but it was drained when they built Copco 2 Dam.
The first time in a century, it'll have flow permanently restored to it.
A few years ago, Bill had a chance to preview what it will look like after dam removal, when PacifiCorp diverted water into this channel to simulate future flows. During that test run, he got to raft this stretch of the river.
It was just spectacular to be swept right under that 200-foot high wall. And it's fun whitewater, but the setting is just exquisite. There's nothing like this on the rest of the Klamath. My history with river running and river conservation goes back to a time when we were losing rivers on a regular basis to dams, and to have lived long enough to reach a point where we're actually removing dams and restoring canyons is something I never thought I'd live to see.
So we're filleting fish up to cook it traditionally on sticks. Then we'll stake it up This is tradition passed on from the beginning of time. This is how our people cook fish. Boom, there it is.
For indigenous cultures that depend on salmon, removing the dams brings tremendous hope for restoring these fish. But for now, Troy Hockaday is still waiting.
The dams are going to come out, but I'm not going to celebrate until I see an excavator on top of the dam moving that rock. And once that day happens, then you'll see me jump up and down and scream and holler to the Creator about what's happening. But until that day, I mean, we still got a little more to go, but that's the day I'll celebrate.
Getting inspiration for your next adventure. It's kind of why you're here, right? Well, you can support more of what we do on Oregon Field Guide and everything else you see on OPB by going to opb.org/video and becoming a sustaining member.